G'day everyone, it's Farmer Jay and welcome back to Derriere Farms, where today we're going to take a step back and we're going to take another look at precision farming and your environmental score. Specifically, we're going to take a look at grapes and olives and how on an existing save game they could actually be hurting your environmental score. Now, I know I have done a video in the past when precision farming came out on how to grow grapes and olives with precision farming. However, that was done on my Laurent test map, not my actual gameplay map. And everything was prepared perfectly. We started from fresh. We worked through the different crop types. We worked up to grapes and olives. And so everything on that video worked out perfectly, and I will link to that video just so you have a deeper reference on grapes and olives. However, my existing save game, which was a convert from the base game to precision farming, I'm suffering a big penalty for growing grapes and olives. Now, I'm not talking about a big penalty in terms of harvest yield or anything, because as we determined, in terms of yield, precision farming has nothing to do with grapes and olives. They're not affected by soil type, they're not affected by pH levels. But what they are affecting, as I said, is my environmental score. So here's field 47 on Elm Creek, where I have done everything I was supposed to do, except prune, because I couldn't be bothered to prune my grapes and olives, because I'm going to be ripping them out. And I'll explain that in a little bit more detail in a few minutes. So, as you can tell by the ground state, it was cultivated, it was mulched. All I have left to do is plow and prune, and I'm not going to bother, as I said. Why? Take a look at my environmental score for field 47. It is 55. That's absolutely horrible. In fact, it's even worse than these fields here, which I just purchased, took my soil samples on, and have a score of 57. My grape field is 2 points below a field that I have done nothing to except take a soil sample. As you can see, that's the only bar that is all the way up. Now I guess they're orchards for grapes, vineyards for vineyards for grapes and orchards for olives. My 4 fields here that have been plowed together aren't doing that much better, and they're olives. The only difference that's showing a plus here is that I'm actually getting a score for tillage and weed control. So it's recognizing the fact that I have no weeds there, but I have no weeds here either. And yet I'm taking a penalty for it. So I've been going back and forth. I've discovered this a couple of weeks ago, when I started playing. I had a couple of hours free time, so I started just working on my Elm Creek farm, as I haven't paid much attention to it yet. It does have 500 hours invested in it, which is why I'm now near the 10 million mark. And I planted the grapes and olives before I switched to precision farming. And nothing I can do will get my environmental score up. As you can see down here where it says precision farming, I've even lined it. It says it's perfect there. Nitrogen, that's another story altogether. It's just a mess. There is, like I said, absolutely nothing I can do. And yet on Laurent, when I started fresh, I had absolutely no problems. So let's go into this a little bit deeper. Now, if you look over to the southeast corner of the map, you can see my most of my fields down here are 100%. 97, that was just planted, so that's going to pick up after harvest time. But I'm just showing you that, yes, I do have a couple of fields where I have 100%. And that's a totally different story on how you get from 95% to 100%. And I'll do a separate video on that. But with all these fields, I did exactly the same thing. I cultivated. I used a direct drill with fertilizer. I rolled and I harvested and I got 100%. And I'm like, well, why are my grapes and my olives not changing? I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. Okay, so the reason this is important for me is because I'm playing with seasonal growth on, which I wasn't with my Demolishing map. And right now, I'm just about to enter, or have entered, spring planting season. So I have a low score from these fields because they've been tilled, ready to be planted. Once that's all done, the score is going to go back up. I'm not too worried about that. What I am worried about, like I said, is the fact that my grapes and olives are bringing my environmental score down in conjunction with this. Now, base game or precision farming, if you've been playing Farming Simulator for a while, you'll know that winter/spring, the January, February, so December, January, February, are the best times to sell crops. And because my fields are ready for planting, I'm losing a couple of points of environmental score. That's a couple of dollars. Or a couple of $1,000 if I'm taking grain and selling it. Anything large quantity. And like I said, for a farm where I own most of the map, I'm losing a large amount of money in that couple of percent difference with my environmental score. I'm at 13. I had been at 14, almost very close to 15 when everything else was perfect on all the other fields except for the grapes and olives. So to me, it was kind of important to get these scores back up. And like I said, I tried everything. I even tried selling the fields back to the AI farmers, repurchasing them, and seeing what would happen. And I was in exactly the same boat. Now, the one thing I did not try, and I'm far too advanced now from my old save game to be able to go back to it, was when I first converted to precision farming, perhaps I should never have taken soil samples from grape and olive fields. Just left them blank and see what that did to my score. Alright, so if we look at fields 45, 46, and 44, which are all part of the same farm, the base farm you start with, I also had grapes in these fields here. And they were in exactly the same boat as they were there. So right after harvest time, last year, I tore out my grapes. Tore them all out. Planted grass, and I just harvested the grass, and I've got my environmental score up to 99 because I did everything I was supposed to do with a grass field. And that takes me back to the original video I did on Demolishing, which said, when selecting an area of land for grapes and olives, just so you get that little extra boost, make sure that you, if it requires plowing, plow, mulch, and do whatever you have to do to prepare a normal field. Like we did with this grass field. Expected yield, 100%. Yield potential 100%. So this field is golden. It's perfect. It's ready to go. Right. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit and I'll tell you what I did. And I'll tell you why it's not currently here. I replanted these two fields with grapes and olives. Sorry, not with grapes and olives, with grapes, just to see what happened, because you don't want to mix a small field like this. Anyway, so planted my grapes, worked a season without saving. Sure enough, no problem. My grape field's environmental score stayed at 99%. So sadly, ladies and gentlemen, that means that if you have a farm, you are converting from a normal save game to a precision farming save game, and you have grapes and olives, you are going to have to rip them out if you care about your environmental score. And I'm not too upset because I do have money on this farm, and none of it was cheated in. This was just natural gameplay. I'm not too upset, but if this had been earlier on when I transferred the game from regular save to precision farming, I'd have been really kind of upset because grapes and olives cost a lot of money to plant. Now, I did go ahead and I filed a ticket with Giants in support, and I explained I fully understand that grapes and olives are planted. You do everything you do base game with them. They are not part of precision farming. And I explained that the part I was concerned about was the fields they were on have killed, or not have killed, but are hurting my environmental score. Their response, or Marius, I'm not going to tell you what my opinion of Marius is, one of their lead developers. But his response was working as intended. Farm the same way as you did before. So I filed and he closed my ticket. So I filed another one and I said, I'm not worried about my grape and olive yields. I'm worried about my precision farming score. Ticket closed, no response. So again, Giants have their heads up their ass. Excuse that expression. So, like I said, sadly, what that means is if you have taken an existing farm and you're a grape/olive, I farm them not for the profit. I do them for the production cycle so I can make other stuff like cereal with the raisins and olive oil. If it was just base game stuff, I wouldn't even bother with grapes and olives. They're such a huge pain in the butt. But I really would like them not to hurt my environmental score. And there's no reason they should. If they're exempt from the game, the conditions of the ground they're growing on should not affect the environmental score at all. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rip out that other grape field and I'm going to show you what I mean. And very quickly, for those of you who may never have had to demolish a grape and olive field, I did help somebody out in the forums the other day. They didn't know how to do it. I said you simply go into your productions or building menu, you go to demolish, and you just work down the line. And I find the easiest way to do it is to line up perfectly with the line and slowly work your way down there. You may just have to, there we go. So let me do this and then I'll show you what the field status shows. And there we go. Finally done. That's a little bit more finicky deleting than it is placing grapes and olives, so yeah, beware of that. So we're now standing in the middle of the field, and as you can see, it has absolutely no status to it. It tells me nothing's growing. There's no... However, it still has exactly the same environmental score. Let me save, and I'm going to see if I soil sample what it says. And taking a new soil sample did absolutely nothing. So, sadly, that means you're going to have to do what I did with my other two grass fields, and that is get a plow and recreate your field. I'm not going to walk you through the steps needed to recreate a field from dead land, or whatever you want to call it. You all know you either need a plow or something like that, which will allow you to create fields. I use this for these fields only, for field creation. It's a little unrealistic, but it's Lizard 6/9MT, and it works perfectly. So go ahead and use that. Once your field is created and you got a plowed status, go ahead and use a direct drill to seed it. You won't necessarily need to weed it because it was plowed, but I would suggest taking a See and Spray weeder over it, because that boosts your weed score. Instead of leaving it neutral, it brings it up to 100%, even if there are no weeds in the field, which is another weird oddity of precision farming. Plant your grass, harvest it, bale it, and then go ahead and put your vineyards back in. And you should have, like I said, up here, if I was to replant that, and I have tried this, as I said, a 99% environmental score for those fields. And as long as you don't do anything other than touch them with grape equipment, so just make sure you use the equipment recommended for grape harvesting, grape cultivation, and so on, you should be fine, and that 99% environmental score will stay the same. Now, if you're anything like me, I'm pretty much at my wit's end with grapes and olives. There are, in my personal opinion, I would rather harvest sugarcane and potatoes than I would grapes and olives, because at least you can use a worker to do part of the work with sugarcane and potatoes. It's still long, monotonous processes, but you can do some of the work with a worker. Grapes and olives, you can't do anything with a worker. So if you are ready to throw in the towel, there's one thing you can, well, there's a couple of things you can find on ModHub that will allow you to buy grapes and olives in bulk. But the one I recommend, and we'll go into the buy build menu under silos. Nope. Containers. There it is. It's the multi-fruit buying station, and it acts just like a lime station, except it will sell you pretty much any product in the game, including grapes and olives. It gives you a slight discount of what the current price for that product is, or what the base game product would be if you were to buy it. I wouldn't recommend it if you're going to be buying this just to turn around and sell grapes and olives on the open market. But if you're looking to be able to buy grapes and olives for your production stations, that's one way to do it. Still somewhat realistically, where you're paying a reasonable price for your grapes and olives, and you can keep your productions supplied. Like I said, I'm at a turning point right now. I am not sure if I am going to replant my grape and olive fields, which is why I haven't touched the two grass fields, apart from to experiment to make sure that I did stay at 99%. But if any of you are as frustrated as I am with grapes and olives, sound off in the comments and let me know what you think. And secondly, if you liked the video and found it helpful, give it a thumbs up. It never hurt anyone. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I do make videos at least a couple of times a week aimed at trying to help out players and answer player questions. Thank you for watching. Take care. Jay.